All right, so today we are going to practice adding and subtracting fractions and mixed numbers. So number 1 says 2 5/6 minus 2 1/2. So the first thing we need to do is get our 2 1/2 to have a common denominator with 6 and 2. So I know that 2 can turn into 6 by multiplying it by 3. What I do to my denominator, I do to my numerator. So I'm going to rewrite my problem here to get everything nice and organized. So 2 5/6 minus 2 and 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 3 is 6. So here's my new problem here. I'm going to subtract my whole number, so 2 minus 2 is nothing. So now I'm just going to have a fraction. 5 minus 3 is 2. I'm going to keep my denominators the same. Remember, when we're adding and subtracting fractions, we do not do anything to our denominators, so it's going to stay 6. So I know that I can divide both my numerator and my denominator by 2. So I can reduce it. So my final answer, 2 divided by 2 is 1. 6 divided by 2 is 3. The final answer is going to be 1/3. Number 2 says 1 4/5 plus 3 2/3. Once again, I have to have a common denominator, and I know 3 and 5 will both turn into 15. I'm going to do that by multiplying by 3 over here. What I do to the denominator, I do to the numerator. Down here, I have to multiply by 5 to turn it into 15. Okay, so now I'm going to rewrite my mixed numbers. My whole number does not change. 4 times 3 turns into 12. 5 times 3, of course, is 15. That was our goal, to have a denominator of 15. 2 times 5 is 10. My denominator down here is 15. I'm going to add my whole numbers. 1 plus 3 is 4. I'm going to add my numerators. 12 plus 10 is 22. And my denominators are going to stay the same, 15. But now I have a problem because I have a whole number and then my numerator is larger than my denominator. So I have to take out a whole 15 out of 15, which will make it a whole number of 5. And now I just have 7 over 15. That's my final answer. Number 3 says 4 6/8 minus 1 1/4. So I know that 4 can turn into 8, so I can just leave this mixed number alone. I'm going to multiply this one by 2. What I do to the denominator, I do to the numerator. So I'm going to copy 4 6/8 down the same. My 1 is going to stay the same, but my fraction is going to change. It's just going to look a little bit different, but it still is going to have the same amount. So 2/8. So now I'm going to subtract. 4 minus 1 is 3. 6 minus 2 is 4, and then my denominator is an 8. So 3 4/8, but I know I can divide 4 and 8 both by 4, which gives me 3 1/2. Okay, the next problem, 5 2/3 plus 3 9/12. I can turn 3 into 12 by multiplying it by 4. What I do to the denominator, I do to the numerator. So I'm going to turn this into 5 8/12. My 3 9/12 is going to stay the same. So now I'm going to add. 5 plus 3 is 8. 8 plus 9 is 17. My denominators stay the same. So we're going to have the same issue that we did up here, where my numerator is larger than my denominator, so I have to take out a whole 12 over 12, which turns it into 9, and then I have a remaining 5 numerator once I take out that whole 12 out of 12. So my final answer is 9 5/12. My last problem on page 9 says 3 8/14 minus 2 1/2. So I can turn my 2 into a 14 by multiplying by 7. So I'm going to rewrite my fractions so they look nice and neat. Just helps my brain see it a little bit more clearly. So now I'm going to subtract. 3 minus 2 gives me 1. 8 minus 7 gives me 1. And my denominators stay the same. My final answer is 1 and 1/14. Okay, so this page gets just a little bit more complicated because there's some borrowing involved. This is page 10. So notice we are still using mixed numbers, but we're subtracting for every single one of them. We're always subtracting the larger mixed number, and then we have our smaller mixed number. However, you'll see what I mean in just a minute when I say we have to do some borrowing. So our first problem says 3 1/4 minus 2 6/8. So we still have the issue of having to have a common denominator. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to multiply by 2 because I've got to have that common denominator of 8. So now I'm going to have 3 2/8 minus 2 6/8. See, here's my problem. I can't do 2 minus 6, so I'm going to have to borrow from this whole number of 3. So now I'm going to have 2. So I've taken out an entire 8/8 to make this go from a 3 down to a 2. So now I have 10 as my numerator over 8. And I'm subtracting 2 6/8. So see how I have, instead of a 2 over 8, now I have a 10 over 8 because I took a whole and made it 8/8 and I added that numerator there. Nothing happened to my denominator. All right, so now I'm going to subtract. 2 minus 2 is just 0. I'm not going to worry about it. 10 minus 6, I have 4. 8, we keep them the same. So now I have 4/8. That can be divided by 4. And I'm left with 1/2. All right, so far so good. Moving on. 4 1/3 minus 3 5/9. I need to have a common denominator, and I'm going to make that 9, which means I need to multiply my numerator and denominator over here by 3. So I have 4 3/9 minus 3 5/9. I can't do 3 minus 5, so I have to borrow. So I'm going to have 3, and I'm going to take out an entire 9 over 9. So 9 plus 9 would give me 12 over 9. And I'm going to subtract my 3 5/9 from that. So 3 minus 3 is going to give me nothing. 12 minus 5 gives me 7. And I'm going to keep my denominators the same. It's going to be a 9. Hopefully you're getting the hang of it by now, because I know I sure am. Number 3, 4 6/12 minus 3 3/4. I'm going to turn my 4 into a 12. I'm going to do that by multiplying by 3, my numerator and my denominator. So I'm going to have 4 6/12 minus 3 9/12. So I have that problem again. 6 minus 9, I can't do that. So I have to borrow right here. So that's going to turn into a 3. I'm going to take out an entire 12/12, which means my 6 is going to be added to a 12. So that's going to give me an 18 as a numerator, 12 as a denominator, minus 3 9/12. So 3 minus 3 is just nothing. And I'm going to have 18 minus 9, which gives me 9. 12 is my denominator. So I'm noticing that 9/12 can be reduced. I'm going to divide both my 9 and my 12 by 3. 9 divided by 3 gives me 3. 12 divided by 3 gives me 4. Number 4 says 5 2/7 minus 2 10/14. I'm looking at my 7, and I know that I can turn it into a 14 by multiplying by 2. What I do to my denominator, I'm going to do to my numerator. So I'm going to rewrite this mixed number as 5 and 4/14ths minus 2 and 10/14ths. So once again, I have the same problem I've been having during this whole worksheet. I can't take 4 and subtract 10 from it. So I have to take out a whole number here, 14/14. So I'm going to have 4, and 14 plus 4 is going to give me 18. I'm going to put that over 14, and I'm going to subtract 2 and 10/14. So 4 minus 2 will give me 2. 18 minus 10 gives me 8. 14, keep my denominator the same. So I'm looking at this and I know that 8 and 14 are both even, which means I can divide it by 2. So I'm going to have a whole number of 2. 8 divided by 2 gives me 4. 14 divided by 2 gives me 7. So my final answer is 2 4/7. So our last problem is 3 3/11 minus 1 1/2. So a common denominator for 11 and 2 is going to be 22. So I have to multiply both of these by something. So 11 times 2 is going to turn into 22. So I have to do the same thing to my numerator. Over here, I'm going to multiply this by 11 and my numerator by 11. So basically, we just multiply these by each other. So I'm bringing down my 3. I'm going to skip a line because I've got some room here. 3 times 2 gives me 6. 11 times 2 is 22. Bringing down my 1. 1 times 11 is 11. 2 times 11 is 22. All right, so we have the same problem. 6 minus 11, I can't do that. So I have to borrow a whole. So this is going to be 2. 22 plus 6 is going to give me 28 over 22 minus 1 and 11 over 22. So now I'm going to do 2 minus 1 is just 1. 28 minus 11 is 17. Didn't do a very good job there. And then 22 is my denominator. Hope that helps you.